Happy New Year and welcome to 2026 on the Bluejay Shakeout podcast. Josh Peterson and the head coach of the Creighton cross country and track programs, Chris Gannon, back again. We will be doing pods as the spring semester rolls on. It's a little cold outside, but it'll be spring before we know it. Chris, welcome back. How are you? Hope that you had a great holiday season and a very happy New Year.
It's good to be back, man. We would take Monday and Tuesday weather for the next couple months. Make it ideal for some workouts. But looks like the cold front's coming in this week, just in time to head to Nebraska for indoor season to get officially started.
Indeed. I went for a run, ran into a friend of mine around Flanagan, and he ended up doing a mile with me and was saying, my goodness, the weather that we have this week is like what you dream of in January. And then, of course, the next day, the wind rolls in and it's very cold and it's right in my face for many, many miles. And this is what I expect. What is that transition like for the athletes? I mean, of course, it's expected around here. This isn't a surprise. But I always view it as an opportunity for me to get mentally stronger, not just physically, but really focus in on my mental game. What's that like for you and your athletes?
It depends on where they're from. You have some kids from, South Dakota, Minnesota on the team and Colorado. And it's like, Colorado might be more of an outlier than you'd think. But for them, this is normal or almost nice. And then you get some kids on the team from Arizona and Texas, and they're like, what is going on here? The nice thing is that for the most part, we had good weather over holiday break. A lot of those kids end up someplace for good weather. Whether that's good weather back home or good weather visiting a grandparent or whatever, I feel like we had a pretty good training block over break. And so, getting back Monday and Tuesday was super, super nice here. We were able to get outside for workouts. Wednesday today is kind of our recovery off day. Tomorrow we pre-meet and Friday we race. So this week's not really too much of that transition. I feel like next week is kind of be if the weather doesn't cooperate and we're indoors or outdoors or splitting time. We're always warming up indoors this time of year and then potentially heading out for the workout. Sometimes we do get stuck inside for the workout. It's just a matter of making do with what we have based on what we're given.
Yep, that is certainly the best way to view it. Let's talk about break for a moment because I'm curious. We talked so much about process in the fall season, about the days off or the holiday breaks, anything like that, and what you are asking of your athletes. What does that look like? How individualized is that for your competitors over the time, literally away from Omaha, away from Nebraska? How does that come together for you?
Yeah, great question. I'll give you the very NCAA question compliant answer on it. So the first 2 weeks of break, we move out of season for our athletes. They run on their own. They kind of talk to us ahead of time and kind of get a pretty good idea of what we're looking for those first couple of weeks right after finals and into Christmas. And then we enter season. We return into our accountable hours before they're even back to campus yet. That way we can technically assign workouts and follow up with our athletes to see how those workouts are going. Depending on where they are weather-wise, we'll make very, very specific adjustments to them. If one of our kids is in Arizona or back, on the West Coast, or even nice around here, this is what we had thought based on weather or facilities or whatnot else, and we'll make a very specific adjustment to that. Some of our kids in Chicago or be able to get actually to Gately, which is where Big East Indoor is, and using they have open track time at Gately, and they can, pay $6 or whatever it is to go get a workout in there. And so those workouts then become specific to where that athlete is and what they have access to and what the weather might be like. And there's a lot of flexibility with it too. Like, hey, well, I'm going to grandma's house this day. I'm like, all right, well, then that moves into our off day or recovery day. And then we move things around a little bit. Try to give our kids some freedom. We try to give them a little bit of a break, but we reported back to campus on Monday and we race on Friday. So we're still needing to get that work done as well.
One of the things, Chris, that we talked about a lot towards the end of 2025, calendar 2025, was just the bumps and the bruises that are going to come with a season and how that showed itself and some athletes needing time off, et cetera, et cetera. How do you feel like the group is as we get into this spring semester, as we're just a couple of days as at the time of this recording from a meet? Like, how are the athletes doing right now as another one begins?
Yeah, we're in a pretty good place. I feel like some of the athletes that needed a little bit of time off to get back to fully healthy, are in a good place. A couple of them are still coming back. And then there's a couple of kids who got banged up over break. I mean, that's, unfortunately part of it, whether that's, not having the same access to, facilities or training room or, med services that we have here and they're accustomed or used to, or whether that just is what it is. But yeah, as far as a whole, I feel pretty good about where we are health wise right now. We had a couple of our athletes that had not raced through the fall that are back to healthy now. Looking to debut them here this week or next week. We have one grad transfer in from Iowa State, Kaylee. She'll debut this week. And we're excited. Our goal this week on Friday, Saturday at Nebraska is not going to be let's go run season best times or anything like that, but kind of use that meet to kind of see where we are at. And then we go back to Nebraska again next week and kind of look at that from a different lens of competing and potentially chasing some marks for some of our people who are ready. And then, we continue on with the season from there. But overall, I feel pretty good about where we're at. We definitely have a few key people we're trying to get a little healthier or back full, I guess.
You said a word there that I want to ask about. That's goals. What does that look like? I imagine you have a broad, big picture goal for the team as a whole. I imagine that you have goals individually for your athletes. I imagine the athletes, of course, are going to have goals themselves. What do those conversations look like, especially so early on in the season? Are you asking them, what are you hoping to do? And then you can provide maybe the hopes of yours. Like, is it coming together of, hey, maybe this could be something I could chase? What do you think about that? What are you looking for in that regard?
Yeah, I think that conversation, that dialogue is going both ways right now. I think that, we talked about those goals and what that looks like before, those athletes went home for break, with what we were trying to set up for throughout the break period, but also at the same time, looking at, how the goals of a junior or senior are very different right now than especially those goals of a freshman. A freshman for the first time right now is looking at a cross-country indoor-outdoor season competing year-round and how that looks differently. We always say that our goal for our freshmen is that they figure things out, they stay healthy, and they learn the ropes. If they run well during that time and doing so, then great. But our goal is never how fast can we make a freshman. Our goal has always been to develop our freshmen so that they can be fast by the time they're a junior or senior. And so, for some of those freshmen right now, like Coach Ferris has the mid-distance crew right now, and I've got sprints, and then the flip side of it, the long kids. A lot of those freshmen, even if they're potentially looking at being on the 5K or the steeple side in the outdoor season right now, they're with Fairs, even just to handle the transition a little bit better as far as mileage and workouts and things like that, being with him at a little bit lower volume in those things. And so those goals are kind of all over the place. Yeah, absolutely. We have big goals as far as what we're trying to accomplish as far as school records and Big East indoor, but the bigger picture being the outdoor season and what we're wanting to accomplish there. We went through our indoor school records the other day and kind of collectively looked at those during our team meeting and like, which of these could we not break this year? And the general consensus was that pretty much every one of them is breakable, minus potentially an Emily Martin performance up there. But Emily Martin's is a pretty elite league, considering when she left Creighton, she went to New Mexico and became an All-American. So, and who knows? Maybe one of those is within reach too. So, but we're pretty excited about what we have as far as a group of athletes who are hungry and eager, and some opportunities that await as we just continue to keep that process in mind. We talk about that. Can I be better today than I was yesterday? And
yeah, for sure.
That's the way we approach it, then good things ahead.
We'll talk about those individual stories all throughout the year. Looking forward to that. I want to ask you kind of a nerdy question, because when I ran in high school, we only had one indoor meet a year. It was at Nebraska Wesleyan. It was always mid-March. It was always during March Madness. And me, not enjoying running at the time, I was always trying to sneak away and watch the games and find out how my bracket is doing. And I know in like a more of a serious conversation, indoor versus outdoor was so different for me. And I think that there was this mental block that I had of how short the track is versus what I was used to. How are, at this level, What's the difference between indoor and outdoor in terms, like, because this is what you got to do at this time of year, right? You can't always do an outdoor meet in January in Nebraska, if ever. What are the biggest differences? How do those show themselves?
Definitely a lot of different tactics. I would say that's probably one of the biggest things. I mean, I would liken indoor racing to NASCAR, if you will. I mean, it's bumping and grinding. It gets rough. It gets physical. There's definitely the mental component of, the 5K being 25 laps. That's a lot of laps for a 5K. Just strategically, looking at, how things feel. Like some of these kids, they're going to go down to Nebraska as a freshman this week, and it's the first time they may have ever been on indoor track, or it might be the first time they've ever been on a banked indoor track. And just even what that feels like coming off of a turn or something like that, and feeling that energy of the track. So there's definitely those pieces. The thing I always say to them, I can promise you good weather 5 times all spring, and those are the 5 indoor meets on the schedule. So, there's that piece of it too. Fairs was talking with somebody, one of the kids the other day, about the indoor hack. It's so dry most of the time that indoor meet, you get done running, especially if it's a mid-distance kid, and it's just this dry cough. And so, despite kids loaded up with cough drops, it's just little things like that I think that are part of it. I love indoor though. It's just beautiful. You're able to sit there and just watch magic unfold right in front of you. You're able to see, and you're so close to the action, and just see some really cool things. And the meets move so quickly, just because of, there's just a different series of events, not as many events. And I personally love it. I love outdoor too, don't get me wrong, but I've grown to appreciate the intricacies of what indoor is, and it's its own rights. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's something too. We were talking before the pod about going to a basketball game as a kid, and how warm it was where you were sitting. And there's something about going into one of those indoor meets on a really cold day. First of all, it's going to be warmer inside, but then all of the energy and all of the sweat, and it's just like, it is a little toasty inside of there sometimes. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, you bring that up. I think some of the meets that we'll go to have done a really good job of like trying to get ahead of that. Like, we'll go to Iowa State here the first week of February, and they will literally open the bay doors the week before the men's mile and the women's mile to literally try to drop temp in there, because they want to create a good running environment for the athletes. But that's a very real part of it. And so that's just another interesting part of the equation of what indoor is.
Yep, I'm looking forward to talking about it with you over the next couple of months. Let's finish the pod with what we usually do at the start of the pods, which is something I forgot to do, and that's what's behind you this time. That's a new photo. You always have some sort of a historical photo from Creighton. This one is new, and it is awesome. What do you know what year that this one is from?
Yeah, this is, I want to say this is 30. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's a workout at Creighton Stadium, the old days. But yeah, it's pretty sweet. It's one of my favorites. I've got a collection of them just kind of archived on the computer now. But yeah, just continuing to dork out on what this history is. So here's the cool thing. I've got another one of these that you can see. So if you can see the uniform of the guy that's at the tape right there, it is the Old English script C, which the men's basketball team just unveiled on their uniforms like a few weeks ago. Yeah. And I actually took that idea to administration probably 4 or 5 years ago. I was like, hey, I'd love to do a throwback with the script C, because we used to wear this, and it was shot down pretty quickly. So maybe now that men's basketball is doing it, there's hope for us. But I loved it. And I loved it when men's basketball, they unveiled it. It's, people are like, oh, they look like, I don't know, people were Duke or somebody, I don't know, has something similar. I can't remember, but the fact that that's actually our history. We didn't pull that. That got pulled from our.
It wasn't created out of thin air. Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, and there's football and basketball uniforms all. Like at one point in time, that was the Creighton logo and what was on all of our athletic uniforms, and I think it's beautiful. And so when men's basketball pulled it back out, I was pretty pumped. So I'm a bit of a dork, so but yeah, it's a cool picture. It's a really cool picture, and to see like the fact that you can see both layers of the stadium there, and the canopy, and the upper and the lower, and like Creighton, 1930 thereabouts, Creighton had what was considered one of the best track venues in the entire country. It was pretty wild. Like they had what was state of the art cinder at that time, and it's pretty cool to have dug in and gotten onto some of that history. We technically have a school record. The men's 100 and the 200 school record will technically be 100 years old this spring, I believe. I think they were set in 1926 by Sass Keen. The 200 record should get broken this year by one of our guys. The 100 record, we don't have any run in the 100. So when you think about it, he ran 10.7 on a cinder track, and he had to dig his holes in terrible spikes. And like, it's actually 100-yard time that got converted, and it's pretty impressive. So I've continued to dork out over the history of Creighton track and field.
As always, I think when this comes up, I just think about my feet and how miserable that
terrible,
sounds.
awful.
Oh,
yes.
The chafing, all of the things from back then. Oh God, incredible.
Absolutely horrible.
Yep, indeed. But it makes for a great photo, and that's what we very much appreciate. Almost 100-year-old photo. Very, very cool. Well, Chris, good luck to you and the team at Nebraska. You'll be in Lincoln this weekend on the 16th and the 17th. Very good luck to you. The plan, just like we did in the fall, we're going to be chatting every couple of weeks. We'll get much more granular. We'll talk about the individual athletes and tell their stories over the course of the few months, but certainly a like and a subscribe here to the YouTube channel so you don't miss when each of these episodes drops. But we're really looking forward to doing another Bluejay Shakeout pod as this spring semester rolls on. Chris, thanks for your time. Safe travels to Lincoln, and have a great meet this weekend.
I appreciate it, Josh. All the best.
All right, we'll see everybody in a couple weeks. Thanks for watching the Bluejay Shakeout podcast.